show. This is a still from a series from the last season. And this major success of my city was obviously due to the fact that we were creating history together with Poland, of course, this year. But if we look at national translations of this motto, creating history together, we may be a bit surprised, because in Ukrainian translation is quite literal. Stворимо історію разом, creating history together. But if you look at Polish translation, that you can see here, we can see it's quite the opposite. It's just the antonym of this formula. In Polish, this motto sounds "Razem tworzymy przyszłość," which translates "creating the future together." So what's absent from this equation, where history equals future, is obviously the present. So we can look into the future or dig into our history as long as we want, but under the one basic condition, and this condition is that we don't look at our present. And I think this is the basic ideological constellation behind the condition that our countries were sort of creating history together in this Euro football championship that we hosted this year. So here is one of the ways of creating history. In Switch on Ukraine, a promotional video that was made for Euro 2012, for the host cities of Euro 2012, a monument of Lenin in the main square of Kharkiv, one of the host cities, was erased for some reason. This is I think this is enough for the intro, and let's create some history together. In 1923, a sports stadium was founded in Kiev. It was named after Lev Trotsky, but only for a short while. For no more than the first year of its existence, it had this name. This is not the Trotsky Stadium. This is the Simpsons again. This is Kiev, as it is represented in this show from last year. So this is the Trotsky Stadium in Kiev, and as you can see from the very beginning, it was not only used for sports purposes, but also for something else, for politics and ideology, and this function is preserved for the stadium until now, as you will see later. So in 1934, the first reconstruction of the stadium was started, and a new name was given to the stadium, a name of the party official Stanislav Kosior, but unluckily, a couple of years after the start of the reconstruction, Stanislav Kosior was purged, just as numerous other party officials in the Stalinist purges. So in this article from the Socialist Kiev magazine from the late 30s, you can see all the mentions of the name of the stadium, the name of Kosior being erased, literally, just like the Lenin monument was erased not so long ago, as you could see. So we could say that also some kind of a similar method of creating history together was deployed in this project. But what's so this is the project of the Republican Stadium in Kiev. The statue of Stalin, but what's of particular interest for the history of the stadium is the inner yard that you can see in front of it on the right side. It's really worth special attention, because this is a site where the sports and power overlap totally in the structure of the stadium. Primarily planned for sports trainings, it was actually used by the party officials as a site of exclusive power, as a site of representation of their power. So this is how it was supposed to look from the inside. The reconstructed stadium's opening was planned on the 22nd of June 1941. On that very day, Nazi Germany has attacked the Soviet Union, and the opening never took place. After the war, ever greater attention was paid by the Soviet power to the sports as a mobilizing and unifying social practice. So in 1960, another piece of architecture, a palace of sports, was added to the infrastructure of the stadium, which was one of the first manifestations of the second wave of modernism in the Soviet architecture. This structure was called a laboratory of socialist architecture in the 1960s. Please also pay attention to the fountain in front of this Palace of Sports, because this is how it looks now. This is how it was transformed in the course of creating history together. But to mobilize and unify in an efficient way, Soviet sport and Soviet football needed ultimate access to the masses. And to make the Republic Stadium to create more space for the masses, this structure was invented by the architects, the same architect, by the way, who was the author of the pre-war reconstruction of the stadium. It was meant to uphold the second level of the tribunes, and the uniqueness of the project was that it was added to the structure of the stadium even without the interruption of the games. It was added in the course of the stadium's functioning. This was the stadium's new look, as it was meant to correspond to the new ideological urge to make football a truly mass event, an event of mass culture. So the next major challenge in the history of the Republican Stadium in Kiev was the Moscow Olympics in the 1918. Republican Stadium in Kiev was one of the sites of preparatory games for this stadium, and a great deal of new infrastructure was added to the structure of the stadium in the context of the Moscow Olympics. Especially the indoor tennis courts, which requires special attention because of the mosaic on its facade. To me, this mosaic is one of the best representations not only of the ideology of sport in the Soviet Union, but also of the Soviet gender policies. So you can see that both the figure of the sportsman and the sportswoman here look quite similar. Both genders are depicted as a sort of sexless androgynes. But also, this mosaic gives some really important insight into the Soviet edition of political correctness. You can see like African runners here, depicted in a slightly smaller size than sort of internationalist Soviet sportsmen, with the white color, of course. But in the face of history, they were all equals, unfortunately, because it's curious that for the most part the infrastructure that was constructed at the stadium for the Moscow Olympics was destroyed, was knocked down when we started to create history together with Warsaw. For instance, the rehabilitation center next to the stadium, built to a quite original project, was knocked down. This is the project. The Ice Palace, located next to the stadium, was moved to a different part of the city. Moreover, to the part of the city where where a similar ice palace already existed since 1970s. So this is the older one. This is the new one. The new one, and the high from Trotsky again. So since 2004, the projects of reconstruction of the stadium in Kiev were talked about. And what's curious here is, again, the transformation of the inner yard of the stadium that was preserved in the most projects. In some of them, like here, it was meant to be transformed into a shopping mall. Or this one. So some of the architects had really well guessed the representative function of the inner yard and developed it into something really spectacular. This could be Coliseum if it was ever constructed. But in 2010, after the announcement of the host countries of 2012, Ukraine and Poland, an official competition was announced for the reconstruction of the stadium. So it was no more fun. No Coliseum projects, unfortunately. These are the entries. And the winner project developed by the German architects. The previous look, the current look, and what's really curious here is how this inner yard of the stadium looks like a sort of an office center, but in fact it's just an entry to a VIP zone to the stadium. So its original function was preserved, albeit in a slightly transformed way. Now I will switch to the only piece of infrastructure that survived the preparation for the Euro Championship. Survived in a way that it was lucky to collapse long before it started. It's a ski jump that you can see its development here. Now it's gone. But a facility on the site of the ski jump is currently the only piece of architecture that still exists from the previous era. This is a very unlikely and rare example of minimalism in Soviet architecture. This is basically a changing room for the jumpers, which is now abandoned and which became a site of a research and artistic project that me and my colleagues undertook in the context of stadium reconstruction, but also in the context of our interest in the so-called second wave modernism architecture in Kiev. So inside this space, a partisan do-it-yourself exhibition was made that focused on the masterpieces of late Soviet neo-modernist architecture in Kiev, like the crematorium project, and here we were trying to represent the best projects that were created by Ukrainian architects, Soviet architects, starting from the 1960s, from the period when the Khrushchev's era of unification of architecture was over, and in a sort of a weird backlash of Brezhnev time, in a sort of a fight with with oversimplification, with the unification of Soviet architecture, more freedom was given to the architects, and this resulted in some of the very outstanding projects of the time. This was also made in a publication that you can actually have. This is a kind of a map of neo-modernist architecture in Kiev that you can also get. But in the course of our frequent visits to the site of the stadium, while we were working on this research and preparing this exhibition, something different attracted our attention, which is the workers' barracks, who, starting from 2010, work at the site of the stadium. I have to mention that the reconstruction of the Olympic Stadium in Kiev is one of the most expensive stadium projects in the world. It costs $500 million. And when we discovered the conditions under which the workers who constructed the stadium were living, we were completely outraged. And what's important is that these barracks still exist, because although the championship is over, the reconstruction and the renovation of the stadium has not been over yet. It still goes on, and people still live there. Some of them had even installed special doors, maybe to feel more like at home, because they spent really long time there. There are spaces for social life like this cafe. It's really a cafe, it's just closed. Yeah, and then I'd like to show a short video which is actually the reason why I'm here. Actually, I was a bit surprised when when I understood this video was perceived as a kind of a project, like an art project or something like this. It's basically an activist video that was made to spread the word about the situation of the workers of the stadium. It was made on the day prior to the opening of Euro 2012 and spread basically on the internet. So, yeah, the workers' barracks, the stadium.
Вот сюда ходят женщины и мужчины. Вот это душевая. А вот здесь умываются, моют посуду, горячая вода там вот там. Вот это одна из самых таких комфортабельных комнат. Видно, люди живут аккуратно, им даже выдали матрас. Притом, как видно, даже кое-кому выдали подушки. Есть печи, есть на чем приготовить кушать. Судя по тому, что люди кушают, можно сделать вид, что, можно сделать такой вывод, что людям все-таки зарплату платят. Скажите, а вы работаете на республиканском стадионе? Как вам там работаете? Зарплату платят? Вовремя? Вовремя платят?
Да.
А вы поддневно работаете или раздельно?
Вахта.
Вахта это 150 дней.
Ні, нас не зробили, залежить від кількості
А сколько вам за 15 дней платят? Ну, за куб сколько платят? За куб сколько платят?
Ну, 2,5.
Да не, они за куб.
За куб, за куб.
280.
280, 300, да?
Киев.
Ну,
Вчера делом меньше было.
какая цена вообще в Украине вот на сегодняшний день за куб бетона? Ну, вот я тоже здесь работал, я жил в 16-й комнате. 16-й комнате нас полностью кинули. Вот. Нам обещали тоже сказочные воды. Работал я в компании Центр Энергострой. Мне ни хрена не заплатили. Мне интересно, вот всем ли так не платят или только мне? Ну, 280 гривен за куб, это нормально или нет? Вот как вы считаете? Вы знаете, сколько потратили денег на то, чтобы построить этот стадион? В мире нисколько никогда в жизни не стоил столько стадион. Вы это в курсе?
Мы в курсе, мы его начинали строить.
Вам всегда платили вовремя?
Нам, ну, кинули, но мы...
Кинули? Кидали вас?
Да, кто кинул? Да, и мне не...
Это почему же, если у вас так все хорошо, я смотрю, не у каждого даже есть постельное белье?
Мы только сегодня приехали.
Сколько получается на человека в месяц здесь? Ну, примерно. В среднем.
В день мы не знаем.
Не, в месяц, в среднем на человека. Сколько денег?
3,5-4.
И что, нормально? 3,5-4 месяца?
Нет, это Киев. На 2 недели.
Вот, я жил в этой комнате. Пацаны, вы работаете на стадионе? Вот. Самый массово оплачиваемый объект в мире предоставляет вот такой вот стадион. Сколько вам в день платят? Я сам здесь жил, вот я на этой койке спал, меня кинули, мне никогда не заплатили. Или вы боитесь сказать? Ну, ответить. А чего вы боитесь? Ну, вот я такой же рабочий, как вы, я также работал, мне не заплатили. Вы из солидарности можете честно ответить на вопрос? Или вам похрен на меня? Главное, свою шкуру защитить. Ну, вам платят вовремя? Или, может, ну...
Я сказал, пока да, а там будет видно. Если хотят платить, мы работаем.
А вот сколько за день вам платят? Можешь сказать?
Там по-разному, я 700
Ну там 150, да? Я знаю, 150 гривен в день платят. Ну так же или нет? Или вам больше? Ну ты понимаешь, что вообще вы сейчас работаете на самом высокооплачиваемом объекте в мире. Ни один стадион в мире столько денег никогда в жизни не стоил.
А сколько мы в день платили?
$500 миллиарда.
Ну,
если в него вложить.
Донбасс,
Ну больше.
ну, на 100 тысяч больше.
Так вот скажи мне, если столько денег туда вложили, почему рабочим платят так мало? Ну это нормально? Ну вот эти вот условия. Как вот ты считаешь, это нормальные условия для жизни? Ну можно жить или нет?
Слушай, в этих условиях я попал первый раз в жизни.
Ты не понял. Я понимаю, что условия такие. Ну вот как вот ты считаешь, нормальные эти условия вот, относительно этого объекта или нет?
Конечно нет.
This is exactly our present, the present that we are trying to hide by talking about either history or the future. But I suggest switching to the present and talking about this. Thanks.